Tired of hearing people talk about the Canadian federal election and not actually knowing how any of it works? We're here to help! Here's a quick rundown of how the Canadian federal elections work and why they're so important to Canada. Canada has a first-past-the-post electoral system. That means in order to govern, a party must hold majority of the seats in the House of Commons. The House of Commons is a component of Canada's Parliament, which makes laws. But more on that later. Representatives, called Members of Parliament, or MPs, who represent a specific geographical area called a riding, fill the seats of the House of Commons. Parties run a candidate in each of these specific ridings. The candidate that garners the most votes wins the riding and a seat for themselves and by proxy the party. There are currently 338 ridings all across the country. Therefore, a party must win 170 seats in order to gain control of the House of Commons. The party with the most seats selects an individual, usually the leader of the party, as Prime Minister. Sometimes, but rarely, there will be no party that is able to control the House. This leads to one of three outcomes. The first option is to dissolve Parliament and hold a re-election. This is the more expensive option because elections cost money. However, this is generally the one opted for. The second option is for the party with the largest number of seats, but no majority, to form a minority government by allying with another party to get a majority. However, they must cooperate in order to pass bills, as you need a majority vote in the House. Typically, minority governments don't usually last long, and elections are held to try and win majority mandate. The last option is for parties that are not necessarily the largest party to make a deal with another in order to form what's called a coalition to gain majority of the seats in the House. For example, if the Conservatives win the largest number of seats, the Liberal and NDP party can form a coalition. This is very rare in Canada, however, as in order to cut a deal, they need to compromise, and parties don't like doing that on key issues. Canadian elections are triggered by the sitting Prime Minister, who formally requests a dissolving of Parliament to the Governor-General, the Queen of England's representative who acts as a figurehead and is more important for custom than actual governing. Once the election has been called, there is normally a 6-week period before voting begins. In that time, new rules are triggered under the Elections Act that allow for certain things to be done, such as putting up of election signs. There is generally one election day for Canadian citizens to go vote in the ridings, but there are also advanced voting days for those who cannot make it on the standardized days and for international expats who still hold Canadian citizenships. Once the government has been sworn in and the cabinet members are chosen by the Prime Minister, the new government can start to make laws. This is where the House of Commons becomes very important. In order for a bill to be passed, a proposal must be read 3 times in front of the House of Commons before it is voted on. If it receives majority of votes, then it is sent to the Senate to review. The Senate is made up of appointed individuals and generally does not interfere with the work done by the House of Commons. Once this has happened, the bill is given royal assent by the Governor-General and is passed into law. As you can see, if a party wins majority government, they can practically pass any law they choose. This is why some people refer to Canada as a democratic dictatorship. So, now you know how elections work and why it's so important to vote. If you would like a faux opinion on Canada's 3 major parties, what they stand for, and why you should or should not vote for them, check out the link below or visit us at fauxpinion.com.